Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been True Before. This time, Journey's End. Yeah, JJ, Jimmy-Jerome, going solo on this one. Journey's End. It's all been trucked before. Hey, don't. We rarely go solo. Don't leave us solo. Follow us on Facebook. It's all been trucked before. We're out there. Make it a group effort. If you're into that kind of thing, group effort. It's all been trucked before on Facebook. This is Journey's End on It's All Been Trucked Before.
Out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. I'm one of your regular hosts, Jimmy-Jerome. This is going to be a short episode because I'm the only one that watched it. I'm reviewing Journey's End, which was a television special that aired just prior to the Star Trek The Next Generation series finale. And the reason I'm the only one that watched it is because I started to watch it before Keith and Steven watched it and realized very quick it spoiled a lot of things about the series finale, which in the 90s they used to do all the time. They would run spoilers and trailers that gave away everything. The fact that since they're not here, I'm going to just say it now, and if you don't want to be spoiled, sign out. But the fact that Yar and O'Brien and Q all came back for the series finale, that was spoiled. The plot of Picard in 3 timelines trying to fix things, that's spoiled in Journey's End before the finale aired, which I guess back in 1994, that was still done. Kind of sucky by today's standards. We don't want to be spoiled that much. So I told them not to watch it because Steven's never seen it, and it's been many years since Keith saw it. So they said they didn't watch it. So I'm going to just give you a quick review. I've never seen the series finale, but I've read the novelization so many times, none of it was a spoiler for me. So I pushed on and just did it by myself. Anyway, first impressions of Journey's End were way too much freaking spoiler. They should not be spoiling the series finale before it airs. What the heck were they thinking? So bad. They also spoiled some stuff from the film Star Trek Generations. They even showed like a scene of Kirk and Scotty and Chekhov, and I'm pretty sure we knew by that point at least Kirk was in the movie, but still, to spoil that scene, that sucks. Anyway, the title, Journey's End, I was really confused why that was the title of this special, because they just did an episode a few weeks ago called Journey's End, Wesley's last episode, so that was really bizarre, and I do not know why they would reuse the same title. That does not make any sense to me. It seems really dumb. We flashed the entire cast's pictures at the beginning, and they showed Worf from the future in All Good Things. So again, big spoiler. If Steven were here and if he was watching it, I would say, who was that blonde woman? They flashed in the main cast. Of course, Tasha Yar, but that's a running joke for the podcast. The special was hosted by Jonathan Frakes. Everybody loves Riker. So good choice for host. I thought he did a fine job. He did a lot of fun, goofy play stuff besides the informative stuff, and I really liked the tone and everything he set for the special. It was great. They talked a lot about change and growth arcs. There were also a couple montages with a techno beat that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that very much. Worf talked about how they Michael Dorn talked about how they added something new to the character of Worf every season, with the final season talking about the romance with Troy and him thinking it was a natural outgrowth of his arc that now he was going to be with a soft human, but I think we talked about it didn't make a lot of sense. And they did, not in this, but in another special I was watching, they interviewed Marina Sirtis, and she was talking about... So I should mention that I watched this on the Season 7 Blu-ray. It was actually the complete series Blu-ray, but it was included in the 7th season. And there was a second 90-minute documentary on The Next Generation, as well as a 20-minute making of All Good Things. I watched both of those as well. So some of that might merged together in my head, even though my notes are just from Journey's End. And Marina Sirtis talked about how much she liked Worf better with Dax, that felt like a more natural growth. And I agree. Worf was much better with Jadzia and Dax in Deep Space Nine than he was with Troy. That never made any sense to me. I'm glad it wasn't a big part of that final season anyway. We got to see some very skilled stuntmen. I enjoyed that. Very cool trivia, and I will have to mention this to Steven if he comes on, that the lights in the ceiling of the Next Generation transporter were the lights in the floor of the original series transporter. That's a really cool bit of trivia that I don't think we've talked about before on this podcast. We also got to see how they do the starscape out the window. It's just a big piece of black felt with sequins on it that sparkle, and then they've got it on rollers so that they can make it slowly roll past if the ship's moving, which I thought was a really cool way to practically do the star effect. Obviously, in the original series, they just didn't really have windows because, it'd be hard to do the star effect. But then when I see that, I'm like, well, I guess the original series didn't have much budget. So maybe that's why they couldn't do it. Because I feel like the technology for black felt with sequins would have been available in the 60s. But whatever. Denise Crosby in the special seemed to claim that she pitched the character of Sela, which I thought was a very interesting revelation. Certainly not something I had expected, that she got to pitch her own character, but they all seemed happy that she was still part of the family and came back and stuff. They highlighted O'Brien's character. They even did like a look at Deep Space Nine, but it was mainly featuring O'Brien, not Sisko, which again, I thought was odd. Except, I know this is from the perspective of Next Gen fans, so they would know who O'Brien is. But so at this point, talking about O'Brien made sense. But later, when they pitched the, according to them, Emmy Award-winning Deep Space Nine, I think they won it for music or costumes or something, which is still cool. Glad they won some Emmy. But they pitched it by talking about primarily O'Brien. They didn't really pitch any of the other characters, including Sisko, which seemed a little bit odd that you wouldn't try to mix that in. They also highlighted Armin Shimmerman because he was the first Ferengi on Next Gen, as well as appearing in Deep Space Nine as Quark. So really cool idea. I mean, I knew he played that early Ferengi. I'm sure we talked about it when we watched The Last Outpost, but really, really cool that they had Armin Shimmerman included in this montage. They did a bit where Jonathan Frakes crashed a Star Trek convention, which was kind of neat, but Shatner eventually did it later because I guess Shatner just copies everything, right? Although Frakes' character kind of copies Shatner's character, so whatever. But that was fun. He did call them Trekkers, which I thought was kind of rough. I did like, and I'm sure it was staged, the bit where Jonathan Frakes is like, somebody came up and asked him for his autograph and thought he was William Shatner, and he's like, he signed it William Shatner, but then he's like, I should tell you, I'm actually Patrick Stewart, which was funny, but, whatever. Goofy, corny, still. They talked about going on location for the finale, again, showing more spoilers from the finale. So many spoilers. They did go into Planet Hell, which was stage 16. It was their planet set. That was a lot of neat stuff on there. So it's cool to see that set and everything. They also went into a full orchestra, and they had this whole bit where Marina Sirtis was guest conducting the orchestra that scores every episode of Star Trek Next Generation. And she conducted with a red Sharpie. And as somebody that's taken conducting classes, I was a music minor in college, she wasn't good. I feel like they could have given her a couple-minute lesson that would have made her a little bit more competent than she was. I don't think it's her fault, but it did not surprise me that Dennis McCarthy was still staying behind her conducting, because what she was doing was certainly not conducting. But anyway. Brett Spiner told an interesting story where he credited the makeup of Dr. Soong for his characterization of Dr. Soong, which I could definitely see how makeup would go into that, the creating of the character, and I really liked that whole bit. So yeah, good bit. They talked about Shatner joining the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, or Star Trek Generations. They also called it the best movie of Trek so far, which it definitely wasn't. I would consider it maybe the fourth or fifth best at that point, because Wrath of Khan was definitely better. Undiscovered Country was definitely better. Voyage Home was definitely better. I might have liked the motion picture better, honestly. So yeah, it did not really hit those levels we were hoping for with Generations, but they were still making it at this point, so I could see a lot of optimism. I could see that being part of the thing. They also showed the new stellar cartography set, which I remembered being a huge thing. I remember reading articles and stuff before Star Trek Generations came out with the stellar cartography set and how cool that was. I did like it, so neat to highlight it. They also talked about production being underway for Voyager, but they did not show any. And while I didn't like how much they were spoiling Generations and All Good Things, I think a small clip of something from Voyager, if it was just production staff working on a set, or, I guess they showed us drawing a design, but still, I think there should have been a little bit more from Voyager there. And then they ended with an All Good Things montage and trailer, essentially, which again was probably a little bit more. They did have a tribute to Gene Roddenberry at the end, which was cool. They also talked about filming in late March and using the non-Next Generation cast first for the movie, which was interesting. I didn't realize that the generations overlapped the Next Generation filming. And then Voyager was taking over the Next Generation sound stages, which I thought was very interesting. So I did see that in one of the other documentaries that season 7 of Star Trek Next Generation was nominated for Best Drama in season 7, which I find a little bit puzzling because season 7 wasn't very good compared to some of the earlier seasons. But I also find it satisfying that that show at the end got a little bit of something, some recognition. Best Drama nominations, really, really cool. If I have to give an alternate episode, I would say just do The Journey's End with no spoilers, because what the heck? Seriously, dudes. And my annoyance was all the spoilers. Whoever decided to include the spoilers, bad decision. Who I'm going to have a drink with is Jonathan Franks, because he did such an excellent job hosting. It was really entertaining, really fun. Next week, we're watching Star Trek The Next Generation series finale, All Good Things. Captain Picard finds himself doing some stuff that I'm not going to spoil because I still need Keith to sign in. But if you've watched Journey's End that we're talking about, you already know what the plot of the series finale is. So there you go. Not going to read the IMDb synopsis. If you don't know, if you've made yourself blind to it for 30 years, good on you. Tune in, join us for the series finale. And until then, live long. And Steven's not here, so I'll say, and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?